Young adults. You can find more information on the website. But hey, good morning, Canyon Creek. I can say that for 28 more minutes. My name is Virgil Brown. I'm one of the pastors on staff. And if you were here last week, I'm just going to say I'm back. You know, obviously I did mess up bad enough last week where Pastor Brandon pulled me. So we're going to continue on in this series called God on Film. And last week I loosely shared on the movie The To-Do List. And what I liked about that, is what drives your life. And, I shared way too much about me being a type A personality. It was to the point where my wife afterwards was getting all kinds of loving people. Canyon Creek is a really loving church, saying things like, "I am so sorry your trip to Disneyland was so bad. Now that we know you're married to him, we're going to add you to our prayer list. Does your kids need counseling? I'd like to fully fund your next trip to Disneyland Paris." That one didn't happen. But let me share with you the fact that, our trip I'm not going to leave you hanging. Our trip to Disneyland was actually a lot of fun. We've gone there way too many times. We have great pictures of trips and vacations and time away together as family. I've been a pastor for nearly 20 years. And so I've preached literally hundreds and hundreds of messages, and you'd think I'd be good by now. But I've preached and I've bragged on my kids way too much because I have really good kids despite the horrible parenting. I got great kids, and so I wanted to let you know that we're good. I actually brought a family picture to show you that we are all absolutely fine. So this is maybe they missed the cue back there. So anyway, now it's not funny anymore. So moving on. So we're in a series called God on Film, and week number 1, Pastor Brandon kicked off this message on God on Film with Man of Steel. He did a great job explaining what a man of steel looks like, a godly man, a godly father, godly husband. What I've also heard from a number of people, Brandon has got this, Christian has got this, that for a lot of you, these messages are hitting right at home with you. They're resonating in your soul. They're resonating in your heart. And so I encourage you, go back online, revisit a message that you might have heard that might have spoke to you. The week after that, Pastor Christian defined a biblical perspective and a biblical position on drinking. We used The Hangover 3 on that movie. Last week was the best sermon of all 3 of them so far. It was on the to-do list. I was supposed to say that without laughing. Anyway. To-do list about what drives you, what drives your life, what drives my life. And obviously we talked about God being the center of the driving force of our life. And then today we are using the movie The Hobbit, and we're talking about life being an adventure. This was a very popular movie, so I'm curious, how many here have seen The Hobbit? Raise your hand nice and high. I take mine down. I've not even seen the movie. And so, yes, peanut gallery. Yeah, I knew for a fact that somebody was going to boo me. The first service are godly people because they didn't boo me. But I haven't seen this movie at all. So The Hobbit, and my kids have seen it. Both my kids and my wife, I think Angela have seen it. No, she hasn't seen it. So my kids have seen it, and they heard that I was speaking on this weeks ago. They're like, "Dad, you got to watch the movie. Dad, you got to watch the movie." And I guess I got a little stubborn streak in me because I was like, "I ain't watching it. I'm going to preach on it. I'm not going to watch it. I'm going to do what every good pastor does." I went online and I read a summary. And so I got online, I looked up The Hobbit, read a summary, and it's something about this guy named Bilbo. And I thought, dude, I got it. Bilbo is so close to Bible, there's the sermon. And I used Bilbo and kind of cried, something about Bilbo and a fire-breathing dragon named Smog who needs like a emissions test. And the movie started out with this line: "In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit." And then I added, "He saw a bank, so he robbed it." But something about they went out to dinner, they got hijacked, nearly eaten, they got hung from like spider webs and trees, And basically the whole summary of the movie was this: that these guys started out on an adventure, but it went totally in a different direction. And I was reading the summary, I thought, that is so close to our lives. That oftentimes we have ideas for how we want our lives to go. So we set our lives up in this trajectory that we think we want our life to go. And then life happens. And then before you know it, we wake up in a completely different spot than we intended to go. For some people, you started out summertime, you thought, okay, so this could be the best summer of our life. And so far, it's turned out to be one of the most stressful summers of your life. And the thing I started thinking about with adventure and the way life changes and life ends up being unexpected in so many different ways, I thought this is an easy description of you and I. That our life quickly can spin out of control. And we end up on this unexpected adventure, and we need this sort of adventure management. We need this way to get our hand around our life, because so quickly our life can get overwhelming. Our life can get stressed out. Our life can get overextended, and we can easily become overly committed to things. And before you know it, we just wake up tired. I mean, does that describe any of your lives? I mean, you just wake up tired. And what happens is we get on this wild ride, and then before you know it, we get overly pulled in many different directions, and we get tired. And the thing that I learned many years ago, and my kids have taught me this, by coming into the world, that life is at times, well, most of life is just flat out unpredictable. Well, I mean, would you agree with me on that? It's unpredictable. Life is absolutely unpredictable. And the second thing I learned about life is this, and parents, you can say amen because we're in church, but life is also, number two, uncontrollable. One parent in this service, so he's sitting right over there. Life is uncontrollable. It's you can't control what happens in your life all the time. And before you know it, your life is on this adventure that you didn't anticipate happening to you. And before you know it, it quickly takes over our life. And then I remember the verse in the Bible that says, okay, your life can get overextended, out of control, you can be stressed out. But get this, Virgil, that God is the same yesterday, and God is the same today, and God is the same forever. Life can do what life does, but God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And this adventure that leads us down this path also leads us straight into a schedule and a calendar that is extraordinarily busy at times. And even after first service, I didn't even count how many people came up to me and were just saying, Virgil, boy, that hits right where I'm at. Life is just overly busy, and life just gets out of control, and that's what we're going to go at today, because busyness and pace and rush and activity and fatigue, they are all enemies of our life. And what I can say to you this morning is I know for a fact that I'm speaking to a culture that has packed more into their schedule, and you have successfully crammed more into your calendar than any other previous generation or basically culture that has ever existed. I mean, we think we can do so much, that we cram so much into our life, and we're obsessed with going faster, and we're obsessed with doing more, and we're obsessed with getting there quicker. There was even this movie that came out earlier this summer. It was called The Fast and the Furious 6. It's like the new Rocky Balboa of our time. It never ends. Fast and the Furious 67 or something. But that describes so many of our lives. That we live this fast and furious life at this fast and furious pace. And I got a question for all of you. How many of you would say with me that you have said this at least once in your life, if not daily, but sometimes you in a moment of pause, you say to yourself that I'm probably too busy too often. Raise your hand. I'm probably too, look around. Keep them up, look around. Yeah, group therapy. Yeah, all of us. And everybody who didn't raise their hands are liars. And so, but here's what's funny about it. We all admit this often. I'm too busy all the time. We admit this, but we wear this busyness badge kind of as a badge of honor. We're kind of proud of being so busy. We kind of elevate the busy, and it kind of plays out like this. It's like, hey, how you doing? Keeping busy? Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. How about you? Oh, yeah, I'm up to my eyeballs. Oh, yeah, high-fiving each other. Yes, sleep is overrated. I mean, what we do is we end up high-fiving each other, and we just love being busy, and we think that busyness makes us something. And as I was thinking about this and kind of, concentrating it down into a really short 4-hour sermon, I got to the point of saying this. I honestly think that today we have made busy the new sexy. I mean, money used to be sexy, but now I think we've made busyness the new sexy, because if you're busy, it means you're a mover and a shaker. If you're busy, that means that you're getting something done. It means you're something. It means you're important. And it's a sign that you wear almost with a little bit of pride. We live in a busy culture, and we're fueled by Red Bull and Starbucks and energy drinks, and we got to go and go and go, and we're racing all over the place, and we're trying to keep up with the Joneses, but we're going so fast we don't even know who the Joneses are anymore, but we're trying to keep up with them, and we're going at this high pace, and before you know it, we wake up utterly exhausted, and we can't even get out of bed, and we hit the wall, and we wonder what happened. And I would say this, I think all of us fit into that category. And I say this all now to say this. That's one way to live. Today, we're going to go after a different way to live. It's in your Bible. It's in your notes. Everybody got the notes? Everybody got the notes? Yeah, all of you guys got the notes? Yeah, I like to do these. It kind of helps you follow along. They make great paper airplanes at the end of service, so whatever you want to do with it, that's fine. Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 16. It's in your notes on the screen. Let's read this out loud together, and it says, "This is what the Lord says. Stand at the crossroads and look. Ask for the ancient paths. Ask where the good way is and walk in it, and you will find rest for your souls." I love this verse because what I believe today is that there are a lot of people here this weekend, and there have already been a lot of people through here that are standing at a crossroads. You come to this moment at church today, and you can choose to keep doing what you've always doing, or what you've always done, or you can choose a new way. You stand at a crossroads. You can say, you know what, my hurried, paced life, my out-of-control adventure, this is just crushing me. I don't like it. I don't like what it's doing to me. And you stand at a crossroads, and you can choose. And as I was finishing this message up, I was, pulling out all of my old Bible college books, and I was studying some of the more modern theologians, and I came across this one awesome quote by a theologian of our time. His name is Phil Robertson. Here's a picture of him. And one of our most modern day theologians, in his book that I got out of the Bible bookstore, here's a quote I wanted to share with you. It fits so perfect right here. He said this, rule number one. Oh, this isn't, rule number one. To simplify, rule number one for living happy. Here we go. Simplify your life. Throw away your cell phones and computers, yuppies. And I'm like, that is awesome. That fits right where we are. That's you and me. And if you're honest for a moment, and you're tired of raising your hand and saying, yes, I'm busy, yes, I'm overextended, and you understand that busyness, it may make you look important, but when you really get down to it, it cripples your relationships. Busyness may feed your ego, but it starves your soul. Busyness may fill your calendar, but it also cripples your family. Busyness, it can prop up your image, but it minimizes your heart. And if I were to guess, I would say collectively, all of us would say, I don't want to live like that. I don't want to be that kind of hurried person. I want to be different. And so as I got to this point, I thought, okay, well, what makes us so busy? And I kind of put this equation down here for you guys to follow. But what I like about this formula is it kind of describes most of our lives. And it goes like this. Number one, in your notes, life's domains and demands, plus our personality, plus our life stage, plus crisis, plus insecurities equal busyness. Now, as I explain this, what I can do here is I'm going to paint a picture of how we got to where we are and some of the facts of life, but life's domains and demands. We all have several different domains in our life. We have our work domain. That's our work domain. We have our family domain. We have our personal life domain. We have our social life domain. We have our spiritual life domain. And in each of these domains, different domains, we have different demands. On who we are at work, there's demands. On who we are at home, there's demands. In our social life, there's demands. We have all these different demands in these different domains. And for some of you, you could tap out right there and say, man, I'm at maximum capacity right there. I got so much stuff going in my life. But then you add on top of that your personality. And like I said, last week I shared way too much about me being a type A personality. I'm a go, achieve, get her done, kind of person. Multiple calendars and integration and multitask and multi-track. And that's just kind of who I am in this world of mine that I live in. I kind of got this sick fantasy going on that says I can keep adding more without taking anything off. And some of you are right there with me, the type A, and it's the go, get it done, and we're actually thankful for that kind of stuff in a sick way. But luckily, I'm married to the polar opposite of a type A. You don't know this type, but it's called a type U. Type U stands for totally unwound. That's my wife. I mean, she's so laid back and cash, and sometimes at home, I'll kind of get a little amped up, kind of like when I'm preaching like this at home, and, blah, blah, blah. Like, Angela, hurry. And the more I say hurry, it feels like, the more she gives me the Mr. Magoo and just kind of goes at her own pace. And I'm like, hey, it's my day off, Angela, come on, I got a day off, I got all this to do, we got blah, 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 blah. And she looks at me with this blank stare and says, relax, Skippy. And I'm like, just totally diffuses my type A personality. And so for the type U people, what I like about the type U people is there's never any deadlines. There's only what I like to call casual time suggestions. And that's kind of how the type U rolls. And I was thinking about it. I love it, just a church full of type U personalities. You can start whenever you want. If the cafe is slow, you just got to kick it back 10 minutes. You get, the notes. Who cares if you fill in the blanks or read all the verses? It would be just so fun. So as I got through, I'm curious, how many great, godly, wonderful type U people are in this service right now? Raise your hand, all the godly people. Yes, all, okay. Now, raise your hand if you're go, get it, achieve, done, type A. Basically, psycho. All you psychos, right? Yeah, you're good. Kind of like the psychos meet the type U. But what I'm saying is this, is your personality adds into this equation. You got your life's domains and demands, which has all of their own responsibilities. And then you add on top of that your personality. And both personalities have their strengths, and both of them have their weaknesses. And when you add them on top, you continue this snowball effect. And then you put in the middle of that your life stage. And standing up here, this service and first service, there's all different life stages represented at Canyon Creek. You got teenagers. You got your college students. You got your young adults who think it's Christmas in July. You got, single parents. You got young marrieds. You got newly marrieds. You got engaged that were mistakenly for engaged but marrieds. You got your marrieds with toddlers. You got your marrieds with teens. You got your marrieds with full-grown kids at home who won't move out. You got your empty nesters, the golden years. I like the empty nesters. Any empty nesters here? I love the empty nest. Oh, yeah, the golden years. The people who walk slowly and smell the roses, but they bend over to smell the rose and throw a hip out. That's what you call the golden years. And let's just admit it. Our life stage adds and can add to our busyness. My life stage, where I'm at right now, I've got a college-bound kid at home, and I got another kid entering the senior year of high school. And the technical term for the life stage I'm in is broke. Flat out broke. Or another technical term is hungry, because there's never any food in the house with two other grown adults. So you got your life's domains and demands, plus your personality, plus your life stage, plus your crises. Now, if you're not in a crisis this morning, good for you. Look in your rearview mirror because one is coming really quick. That's just called life. Life is just a series of different crises. Either you're going into one or you're coming out of one. Again, life is an adventure. It's got its own twists and turns. And with that adventure comes added busyness. And, you could be a major crisis like the loss of a job or a loved one. It might be a minor crisis like a disappointment or a relational conflict or Starbucks runs out of coffee or whatever. But you got your different crises. For some of you, it's scary. Don't mess with the coffee. Domains, demands, personalities, life stage crisis. And the big one here is insecurities. And hear this. This is one that I would rather skip at times, and it's often skipped, but something that we need to deal with as a church, as a follower of Christ. And oftentimes we force drama or adventure into our life to simply cover up insecurities. And it's a painful one. It's one that few people talk about and kind of pull you to and say, hey, slow down long enough to look inside yourself to see why you keep yourself so busy. Why is it you can never sit still? Why is it you can't sit in a quiet room? What is it that you are trying to ignore? And those are the insecurities, and our insecurities need to be fed with value and worth and recognition and achievement and love and affirmation. And so we do more to feed those insecurities. We do more to receive more recognition. And church, I have that insecure dragon living inside of me. One I've been trying to slay for the last decade, 15 years of my life. When I recognize the fact that, Virgil, when you go and you achieve and you do, you oftentimes will feel valued and you'll be told things and you'll be affirmed. And so what I say to you is, if that makes sense to you and you understand that, would you just groan with me? Maybe that side didn't hear the question. I think all of us understand that treadmill of life. And you go down the adventure of life, and before you know it, you're just kind of understanding that movement brings recognition, value, achievement, worth, and so these things add up to being a busy person, and then you get tired, and here's what you do, and here's what I do. You get tired, and you wake up at Barnes & Noble. You have no idea how you get there, how you got there. You open your wallet, it's empty. You don't know how it got empty, but the kids are around you, and they want more, and there you are. And so what you do is you wander over to the self-help section, and you buy a book on time management that you have no time to read. So you take it home and you stick it on top of all the other books that you never have time to read, like the Bible. And it's sitting there, and now you're feeling guilty. And before you know it, all of a sudden, not only are you trying to put a Band-Aid on it, but you've not spent any time going for the true healing. And what I would say to you this morning is, I believe God has made you and me. God has made us for more than this. God has made us for more than a rat race. I love this verse in your notes. It's Psalms 119. This could be a prayer that you prayed this afternoon. This could be something that you consider making kind of a focus for the next couple of days. Psalm says, you made me, you created me. Now give me the sense to follow your commands. Not like time management things, but God, your commands. So what I want to do today is give you a biblical way to think about time. It's kind of three numbers. The three numbers are 24, 7, and 1. These are kind of like the focuses for today. And so let me unpack these for you. Number one, the 24. Next to 24, fill in the blank and write this. There are enough hours in my day. There are enough hours in my day. I would like to say here, this is the theological foundation for what we're talking about today. That today, Sunday, there are enough hours in today. It's God's design for time. It's 24 hours is a gift from God. You get 24, I get 24. The person sitting next to you gets 24. You can make it bigger. You can slice it any way you want. You don't have to say, I got 24 one-hour chunks. You can say, I've got 1,440 minutes today. Or you can make it even bigger than that. You can say, I've got 86,400 seconds today. But bottom line is, you get 24, I get 24. Bill Gates' wealth can't buy him any more time. Ted Williams' frozen, abused head isn't going to buy him any more time. Martha Stewart isn't going to create more time out of pine cones and fabric. You get 24, I get 24 hours of time. God has given us that gift of 24. Look at Genesis chapter 1, verse 14. Let's read it out loud together. This is God's design for time. It said, then God said, let great lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them mark off the seasons, days, and years. So that's God's design, 24, not 25, not 23. You can worry all you want, all day long today, that you're not going to get everything done before work comes tomorrow. And God said you can worry till you're blue in the face and you're not going to get one extra second. Look in the Bible. In Matthew it says, you cannot add any time to your life by worrying about it. Now, I'm curious. How many of you have ever said at least once, man, I just wish I had a little bit more time today? Raise your hand. Oh yeah, work, homeschool. Yeah, keep it up. Because next time you say that, I'm going to give you a word. You can write this down. Here's the word for you. Blasphemy. Put that in your calendar and smoke it. I'll tell you right now. Blasphemy. You know why? You know why? Because blasphemy is this. Do you know what blasphemy is? Blasphemy is this. Blasphemy is saying, God, I have a better idea than you on how this should go. Blasphemy is saying, God, I have a better idea than you have on how today should be spent. I need more time today. God hasn't given you too much to do in a 24-hour time period. So if you're too busy and you got way too much to do in any one day, I mean, you're going as hard as you can and you know you're not going to get it all done. You're working through your lunch. You're working through your breaks. You're not even there at dinner around the table. You're going. Let me tell you this. Something in your life is then broken. Something is literally in your life. It's broken. And I'll bet you my Taylor Swift concert tickets that what is broken is not God. What is broken is not God's word. What is broken is not the verses we just read. What is broken is inside of you. Like I said, you stand at a crossroads today. You can keep doing the way you're doing things, or you can stop and say, yes, something is broken. And when I push the pause button on my life, again, I've said this to the first service people too. I was on the way out. This is, I'm with you. As I push the pause button in my life, and I look at the broken thinking that points to my insecurities, here's what happens for me. Is that I choose too many things to get going in my life. And the key word there is I choose. I chose. You chose. You choose to try to do too many things in your life. Busyness is a choice. So here's a question that I didn't put in your notes, and I wish I had, but something that if you want to go deeper on this point, maybe it's something you can put in your journal or a small group or an accountability partner. Here's a question I would write down. How are my insecurities contributing to my busyness? How are my insecurities contributing to my busyness? And when I pause, I walk through this personally. I exercise this myself. Okay, Virgil, what are you going to pare down? What are you not going to do? What are you going to give up? What are you going to stop doing for a season? How are you going to focus on your kids or your marriage or your family? What are you going to do? How are my insecurities contributing to my busyness? So that's 24. So 24, 7, and 1. 7, next to that, you can fill in the blank, a weekly rest. A weekly rest. So in addition to 24 hours, God has given us something that is called a Sabbath. In Exodus chapter 16, verse 29, let me read this for you. It says, "Don't they realize the Lord has given you the seventh day as a day of Sabbath rest?" Now, some of you here are more familiar with Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne's band, than you are a biblical Sabbath. A biblical Sabbath is God's idea for you resting and me resting. And some of you would say, well, Virgil, isn't Sabbath an Old Testament, kind of an old traditional thing that, we don't do anymore? And as I look around at culture today, and I look around at all of the different things, parts of me are so glad my kids are growing up, because all the things that my little kids would be expected to do right now, I think I would just drag my head along the asphalt. Instead of signing my kids up for everything, I look around and the pace and the franticness of society today. And I would say this to you. I think biblical Sabbath is more relevant now than ever before. I think this is one area that we need to reintroduce into our life. And I take my life into my hands saying that because after first service, one lady came up to me and said, "If my husband doesn't fix the deck today because of you," I'm like, call die. Anyway, so this is such a relevant thing that God himself put the Sabbath in his top 10 list. The Ten Commandments. I have somebody hit me with thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not listen to Justin Bieber music. And right in the middle of that is Exodus chapter 20, verse 8. And it says, "Remember to observe the Sabbath and keep it holy. 6 days a week are set apart from your daily duties and regular work. But the seventh day is a day of rest." Circle that, a day of rest, "dedicated to the Lord your God. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and everything in them. Then he rested on the seventh day. That is why the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart as holy." Underline "set it apart." I love that. Well, I did it for you. Set it apart. Because set it apart means this. It's different. Your Sabbath, it's different. Now, I'm not going to be legalistic and say it has to be on Sunday. Obviously, today is not Sabbath for me. The Jewish Sabbath was, sundown Friday night to sundown Saturday. Sabbath, it's just a day that you set aside to rest. Sabbath is the day that you set aside and you make it different. And notice that God, who created the universe in 6 days, he rested on the seventh. And rested in the Hebrew literally means he ceased. He just ceased. He stopped. Do you think God needed a break? No. I mean, he's got that whole God thing going for him. He didn't need a break, but he took it intentionally as an example to you and me. He did it as a demonstration. He did it to display that you and I need to stop every seventh day. And some of you here, I know for a fact, you don't. You don't ever stop. 7 days a week, like the Energizer Bunny. You go and you go and you go. And what I would say to you is, you are actually trying to outperform God. Good luck with that one. God, and when he created the universe, in the DNA of the universe, he put in there a weekly Sabbath. And now in the Sabbath, I came across this just decades ago. 3 words for Sabbath is rest, refresh, and renew. And what do you do on a weekly Sabbath is, number one, you rest your body. You sleep in, you rest, you recharge your batteries, you feel good about it, so you rest your body, you refresh your relationships. And what I love about this is, as a pastor, working at a church, I always work on Sundays, and so my Sabbath would always be Saturdays. And so when my kids were little and, whatever, Saturday was family day. It was always family day. And we would always do something fun together as a family. And now that they're grown up and getting ready to leave the house, whether they like it or not, we still think back to those days. Like yesterday, both of my kids were working. Praise Jesus. They were both at work. And they were working and earning money and getting ready for college and stuff. And so me and my wife were just by ourselves yesterday. So we went out and we went and hung out and went and did some errands and was walking around stores. And we were actually in a store that we used to go to when our kids were little. We'd walk around and have fun. Then we'd go to Arby's and have lunch or whatever. But yesterday we were walking around and we literally stopped and looked at each other. And we thought, I remember when Amy and Bryce used to be with us when we did this. And it was just that moment of time where I thought, I am so glad that we exercised this refresh my relationships every single week. We would always hang out as a family. We would reconnect as a family. We would go and hang out as a family. So we rest our bodies, refresh our relationships, and renew our love for God. That's what you do on a Sabbath. And so we're talking about a new way of thinking here. You know, the adventure, quickly getting out of control and getting busy. Well, there's 24 hours in my day. There's a Sabbath on Sunday. Number one, it's a daily pause. And this is where at least once a day you pause to pay attention, to pay attention to what's going on between you and God. It's like your daily quiet time. And what you do is you do this once a day, and you look at what's going on, and you pray, and you say, God, give me your wisdom for today on how I should live today. You say, God, I want to trade in my way of thinking for your way of thinking. And Jesus, he did this himself. Jesus, 100% God and 100% man, he paused. He would stop in the middle of what he was doing, and he would pause. I love this verse. It's in your notes. Mark 1:35, it says, the next morning Jesus awoke long before daybreak and went out alone into the wilderness to pray. Later, Simon and the others went out to find him. Simon said, hey, everyone is looking for you. And I love this verse in the Bible, number one, because it said Jesus rose early in the morning. And I'm an early riser. I love getting up early. It doesn't matter if we're on vacation. It doesn't matter where we are, if we're in a motel or at home. I always wake up early. That's just what godly people do. And so, but the rest of my family, they love to sleep in. But what I like about Jesus' daily pause is I've read the Bible enough to know that Jesus also did this late at night. So it doesn't matter if it's early morning or late at night. Pick your flavor, it's there. But what I like about it is Jesus was pausing. He went out by himself to pray, to connect with his Father. And everybody freaked out. Where's Jesus? Where's Jesus? Go find Jesus. And they find him and they say, Jesus, where were you? Everybody was asking for you. And I love picturing this. I love his disciples getting all amped up, freaking out that Jesus is gone. Something like this. Jesus, where were you? We called your cell phone. I mean, come on, when that thing rings, pick it up. You know, we tried to text you. We know you're not all into technology and stuff, but you have that ringtone set to that song, What If God Was One of Us? And that's kind of weird and spooky, but Jesus, you're in demand. Where were you? You got things to do. And then all of a sudden, you know, Jesus in that moment, he teaches through his actions. And Jesus himself was pausing. Oh, I love this. Jesus said no to nonstop accessibility. Aha! Stab me in the heart. Put a fork in me. I'm done. I dare you to go through a day with your phone off. Some of you, heart rates just went up. I mean, I'm telling you, heart rates, just turn it off. I did good at this when my kids were like under 10 years old. We would be in the car in Dad's 1994 Ford F-250, driving to Granite Falls with no teeth. I would turn the radio off, I would turn my cell phone off, and I would talk with my kids. I would intentionally drive them home, Bryce, and then I would take Amy next. I used to do good at this. Jesus said no to non-stop accessibility. He withdrew. I read the Bible. Read the Bible. Jesus also didn't heal everybody. Jesus didn't see everybody. Jesus didn't perform miracles for everybody. Not because he didn't love everyone, but because he said no to nonstop accessibility. He knew that there was times where he needed to occasionally pause. And that's where you and I need to look at the Word of God and say, hey, if I'm going to choose a path, remember the very first verse, am I going to choose God's way or my way? Because if you keep doing it your way, you're going to simply be a mere shadow. Not my words, the Bible says. Right there in your notes. Psalms 39. It says, we are merely moving shadows, and all our busyness ends in nothing. What does shadow mean? Shadow means there's no substance, no depth. There's no connection. The relationship suffers. The relationship between parent and child, or spouse to spouse, or child to their parent, all of that, it just suffers. And so we pause to ask God to reveal to us the meaning and the direction and the purpose for our life. And that's time you don't make. The whole phraseology of making time. No. You take that time. You intentionally pause every day. So 2 actions that I would challenge us all to work on this week is, number 1, I must be willing to deal with my insecurity. And like I said earlier, this is a big one. And I'd like 1 John 3 to just kind of wash over all of us like a wave. 1 John 3:1 says, see how very much our Heavenly Father loves us. For He allows us to be called His children. And we really are. And you as a child of God can't earn anything extra by being extra busy. My kids can't earn my love anymore by being extra busy or extra, frantic or at a higher pace. My kids are my kids. And I love them. And that's the picture God paints between you and me. And to slow down long enough to say, okay, God, why am I trying to feed this insecurity with being so busy and frantic, is a question that I would encourage you to take to God and deal with in your quiet time or your daily pause. Number 2, then you must be willing to discover what does give you security. You replace your insecurity with that security, and you and I know that that security comes only from God. Not all of our activity and rushing around and our frantic pace, and in that pace we miss the true meaning of our relationship with God, because we find that in God. I love this illustration that I'm going to share with you. It's a great one because it's right out of the Bible, and it's a story about Jesus who's teaching in a home. So he's in a living room, and he's teaching in the living room, and in that home lived 2 sisters. One was named Mary, and the other was named Martha. And so Jesus, he's in there and he's teaching, and Mary and Martha. And my question to you as I read this verse is, which one are you more like? Are you more like Mary, or are you more like Martha? Luke chapter 10 said, then Mary sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he taught. But Martha was worrying over the big dinner she was preparing. That would probably be me. Martha was worrying about the big dinner she was preparing. She came to Jesus and she said, Lord, doesn't it seem unfair to you that my sister just sits here while I do all the work? Tell her, Jesus, to come help me. But the Lord said to her, pipe down, Skippy. Oh, no, that was my wife. That would be Ange. Anyway, but the Lord said to her, dear Martha, you are so upset over all of these details. There's really only one thing worth being concerned about. Mary has discovered it, and I won't take it away from her. I love ending this message right here. Circled, Mary has discovered it. So the very first verse was, you stand at the crossroads. You end the whole talk today about Mary discovering it. She found it. Real security is living your life at the feet of Jesus. Being connected with Christ. I told you I want to leave you with a new equation, the 24/7 in 1. Not a busied life, but a blessed life. Not a hurried life, but a blessed life. Now, I know the word blessed is a really churchy word. So if we were to go today after this service and we were to have lunch, and of course, you would be paying. But we'd sit there and we'd have lunch and we'd sit and talk. And I would ask you a simple question. I would say, do you want a blessed life? You tell me about your kids, your job, or things that are coming up in your life, and we just connect heart to heart. And I asked you, do you want God's blessing on your life? I would say probably 10 out of 10. Every one of you would say yes. You know what blessed means? Blessed means this. Blessed means full and effective with God's favor. It's very simple. That's blessed. You live a full and effective life, because remember, the greatest mission is the one God gave us. So it's full and effective with God's favor. That's a blessed life. So church, I challenge you, go for the change. Don't go for the Band-Aid. Don't go for culture's time management. Go for real change. You do the possible with full anticipation that God will do the impossible. God will help you get your hands around your calendar in a way that honors Him, or your life, or the chaos. You do the possible with faith that God will do the impossible. So on the back of your cards, if you ever grab your connection card, we're going to turn these in just a minute. On the back, there's some next steps. And I love these next steps because I'll get a big stack of these tomorrow, and I'll see how God has spoken to you through this part of the message. If this is you, just check these boxes. 24, accept the fact that there's enough time in every day to do the things God has set before you. If you prioritize, check that box. Number 2, which is 7, commit to exercising a weekly Sabbath. Now think about this. Remember, set it apart. It's different. Sometime in the next 7 days, you will Sabbath. You will take time to recharge your body, refresh your relationships, renew your love for God. That's what you'll do. If that's you, check that box. Or maybe committing to a daily pause to connect with Christ hits you really close to home in your heart. Check that box. And what we're going to do today is actually put into practice what I talked about. We're going to take a daily pause right now. For all of you type A's, check the box. We're going to do it right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to stop, quiet our hearts. We're actually also going to take communion in our pause. Maybe you're here and you don't know Christ. What I'd like you to do when we go silent is I'd like you to contemplate saying, you know what, I want to follow God. If that's you here today, I'm going to pray with you after we pause, and I'll lead you in a quick prayer that just says, God, I want to put my life right with you. So right now, just everybody bow your head, close your eyes, and let's take a daily pause together. God has a lot of plans for a lot of different people. But the one thing that pulls us together is the principles found in His Word. That's where we're common. And with everybody's heads bowed and eyes closed still, maybe you're here today and you would say, Virgil, I'm not right with God, but I'd like to make my life right with God. I'd like to put my life on the right track. I'd like God to forgive me of my sins, and I would like to live for Him. If that's you, would you just raise your hand? I'd like to pray with you. Yeah, absolutely, yes. Anybody else? Do you know you're not living right for God yet? Absolutely. But you want to make sure that you put your life right with God today. Anybody else? There's hands that went up. Heavenly Father, yes, I see that hand too. Anybody else? Yep, back there. I better wait. You can put your hand down once you raise it. Anybody else before I pray? Yes, I see that hand as well. Yes. Yes. Heavenly Father, you saw the hands that went up this morning. And I pray, God, that you would be near and dear to their hearts. Father, I pray that you would put their lives in a place, God, where you would be in a right relationship with them and they with you. Father, I pray that your heart would be their heart and their heart would be your heart. God, forgive them for their sins, Lord, as they pray that in their heart right now. Lord, as they confess that Jesus is your Son, God, and they accept Him as their Lord and Savior. Father, I pray you would perform that miracle in their lives now. And God, as we pause to remember communion, Lord, I pray, God, you would speak to our hearts, touch our hearts in your name. Ushers, I'd like to invite you to come forward to serve us communion. Communion is open. If you're a follower of God, we invite you to take communion with us. As the ushers serve us, Ben's going to lead us in a song.
I'm forgiven because you were forsaken. I'm accepted. You were condemned. I'm alive and well. The Spirit is within me because you died and rose again. Amazing love. Amazing love. Forgiven. I'm forgiven because you were forsaken. I'm accepted. You were condemned. I'm alive and well, and I'm alive and well. The Spirit is within me, Lord, because you died and rose again. Amazing love. Amazing love, how can it be? Oh, you, my King, would die for me. Amazing love, yeah. Amazing love, I know it's true. It's my joy to honor you. Amazing love. Amazing love. Joy to honor in all I do. I honor you. Sing, you're my King. Jesus, you are my King. Jesus, you are my, yes, you are, God. Jesus, you are my King. You are my King. Jesus, you are my amazing love. Amazing love.